Okay, so first, of course, I want to give you a little bit of motivation and tell you why I think this lecture is important, or why you should care, and why I care. Well, security even makes it to IT security even makes it to mainstream media nowadays. So I've picked out some headlines of the past few years. Security incidents in the mainstream media, for example, 1 billion Yahoo accounts were hacked. Almost everybody who has a Yahoo account, or everybody actually. Equifax lost personal data on almost every American citizen. I don't know if you know Equifax. That's the American Schufa, let's say, that stores very, very personal data about everybody, and they calculate a credit score, like based on how many loans you have had, or if you have been to prison or arrested or whatever. The Russians hacked the US elections was a headliner, and well, this all essentially, the media coverage boils down to one thing: advanced persistent threats. These are nation-state hackers. They just hack everything and there's nothing we can do about it. But is that true? Is truly all hope lost? Are there just these incredible nation-state hackers, the cyber armies that we just can't stop? Well, to answer that question, let's look at the mentioned hacks a bit more in detail and how they worked on a technical level. When we talk about the American election being hacked, what we usually mean by that is the Democrats' DNC, the National Committee, was hacked, meaning that their emails were leaked. With these email leaks, it could be proven that the Democratic Party in the US is completely corrupt, but since that's something you don't want to talk about, the media focus was slightly changed to this narrative that the Russians hacked the US elections. So how did the hack work? Well, phishing emails were sent to the heads of the DNC, saying, please go to this website and change your password by typing your password. Well, with that, they had the email passwords of the heads of the DNC, and from then on could pivot and leak other emails as well. Well, that was the hack of the US election. Not very difficult. So, a funny side note, the FBI noticed these phishing emails, and they contacted the sysadmins of the DNC. And as every good sysadmin, the sysadmins didn't do anything. They were like, oh, okay, whatever. Okay, so as you can see, the hack was not very difficult on a technical level, but the Department of Homeland Security was pressured to issue a press release stating how you can protect the US election from foreign hackers, and their statement said, okay, you have to care about injection flaws. Most common example, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and another problem can be poorly configured web servers or servers in general. We're gonna cover these three topics in the first 2 weeks, so you'll also be able to hack the US election. The Yahoo hacks, okay. Again, it was blamed on nation-state hackers. What happened? Two probably distinct hackers stole the account data, one time in 2013, one time in 2014. There were around 1 billion compromised accounts, so every Yahoo account ever made. How did Yahoo find out about this hack? Well, a user called Peace wanted to sell the hacked data at a website called The Real Deal. This is a darknet website. You can access it with the Tor browser, and you wanted to sell it for around $1,800. Now, I'm not sure, but I think nation-state hackers probably don't sell hacked data for around $2,000. They were hacked by predictable session IDs. What that is, we will cover this week in another video. Funny side note, there was a interview on the 16th of December in the New York Times, or media coverage, and there they said, okay, Yahoo still doesn't know who broke into the systems, how they did it, or what they got, what they stole. That was December 16th. However, 2 months earlier, December 22nd, the Washington Post cited them as intrusion the company blamed on state-sponsored hackers. So, in December they don't know who it was, how they got in or what they stole, but in September they already knew that it was nation-state hackers. It was a common narrative, as I said. But again, this attack, as we will see, was not difficult at all to do. It's most likely a bored teenager doing it from home. Okay. Next hack, Equifax. As I've said, Equifax is collector of the most personal of all data you can imagine. It's like social security number, ID number, your credit records, your bank account details, your credit card history, if you have been imprisoned before, just the most valuable and most private data you can imagine. And they were hacked, and the hackers stole some terabytes of data on almost all American citizens. How did they do it? Well, they used a proof of concept exploit that was by then available on GitHub for this vulnerability. The researchers that found this vulnerability in Apache Struts, Apache Struts is a web framework that's commonly used. The people that found it warned that it is trivial to exploit and it's very easy to find targets. So to find systems that are vulnerable. So the developers of Apache Struts told everybody, please patch as soon as possible, otherwise you will be exploited. Well, Equifax didn't patch for a year or so, and the hackers were able to get in their network and steal all this data. Funny side note here, the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer of Equifax, was a young woman that had a bachelor's degree in music composition, and apparently they didn't do much to secure their very, very private data. She actually gave a lot of interviews about how it is if you studied music doing secure information security. Afterwards, all these interviews were deleted, and her LinkedIn profile was deleted because it's kind of embarrassing for Equifax. Okay, what the heck? These were 3 of the probably most high-profile targets in the world. The US election, Equifax, Yahoo, back then one of the biggest email provider. So how on earth was it so easy to hack these high-profile targets? Well, to answer that question, I would like to tell you my standpoint. So you, as computer scientists, you will most likely be writing code or create infrastructure at some point. Now, this is a piece of code. Let's just assume that somewhere in this code there is a security vulnerability. How a security vulnerability might look, we're gonna talk about later, but let's just assume it has a vulnerability. So what it is mainly done nowadays is we say, okay, security vulnerabilities happen, we can't do anything about it, so we do all kinds of stuff. We get a security intrusion detection system, from some company. We're gonna do threat intelligence. We're gonna analyze the log files with artificial intelligence. We're gonna set up honeypots in our network. We're gonna streamline the processes in our infrastructure, in our company, in our personal company. So what is done is, we don't fix the actual security vulnerabilities by patching, for example, or by fixing code. What we do is we introduce all these kinds of mostly useless systems into our network that by themselves add complexity, because they are also made from code, and they may also have bugs, they may also have security vulnerabilities that a hacker is maybe able to exploit. So from my standpoint, the correct way would be to patch, to fix security vulnerabilities, which is rarely done, and that's a problem. So most hacks could be avoided using best practices and clean development, which is rarely done. If you want to know how to design a system that has a high chance of being secure, there's a paper, a really good paper from Salzer and Schröder called The Protection of Information in Computer Systems. And this paper is from 1975. It's a really old paper, but it's still up to date. It gives you 10 abstract mechanisms on how to secure your system. Okay, so since 1975 there's this really good paper around that tells you how to do it right. Well, then why is it not done right? Well, I think this has a lot to do with how we teach IT security, which is why our approach in this lecture is very different. We want you to understand the importance and mechanisms of security by learning the attacker's perspective. So our idea is, if you have been the attacker, if you have hacked into a system and exploited a certain type of vulnerability, you will never ever allow in your system for this vulnerability to occur, because you will see what it will lead to, usually to very severe consequences. So what will we do in this lecture? We will hack. You will mainly hack things. You will attack systems. You will develop exploits. You will read exploits of other people, proof of concept exploits, and you will learn hacking techniques. You will learn how systems usually get hacked, so you can afterwards see how you avoid this type of security hacks in your system. What we won't do is, we won't be using security scanners like Nessus or something like that, where you just click a button and it tells you, okay, you're safe, or okay, you're not safe. You won't be learning much with these, and we won't use frameworks like Metasploit. These are alright to use when you work as a penetration tester and you want to use exploits that other people have written. It's not very good for learning, because you then don't know how these exploits work, and we want you to really understand the types of vulnerabilities, and you only learn that by writing your own exploits. So learning goals of this lecture is for you to get an understanding of where security vulnerabilities occur, and the best way to do this is to actually hack into systems. It's my opinion. You learn to exploit vulnerabilities, which is what you also do in penetration testing. And therefore, with these first 2 points, you learn how to localize and eliminate security relevant bugs in your system.